Welcome to ZZ Talk with Zeus
and Zino.
Today is our convention special. This is our convention on the convention. We are going to talk about in length about the DNC and the RNC convention. Mostly the moderator today is going to be Zino because he decided to do America's duty and suffered through all 5 days of each convention.
I'm a masochist.
Yeah. So we appreciate you, sir. You are serving your country. So we're going to go ahead and just do, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to him so he could just let us know what's on the agenda today in regards to what are we going to talk about. And again, this is our convention on the convention.
All right, thanks, Zeus. Name tentative. We'll figure out a better name once we upload the video. So today we're going to be talking about the Democratic National Convention and the Republican National Convention, obviously. We had talked in pre-production about how we want to break it out, right? Whether we would just talk at length about the DNC and then at length about the RNC. But we figured that there's a lot of correlation or a lot of things that are mirrored between both conventions. So we're going to break those out into those kind of sections instead. So the first thing we'll talk about is, what is it the party of based on each party? So, the Democratic Party is a party of this, Republican Party is a party of that. So when we get into that section, you see where we stand on that. And then the next is how both parties wanted to project the view of the pandemic, right? One party was clearly more concerned with social distancing and wearing masks, and the other seemed to just be like, screw it. I guess you'll see which one is which when we get to that section. The next section is about what vision or what message they were trying to portray as far as what 2021 and beyond would look like depending on who wins. What vision did the DNC have and what vision did the RNC have? And then section 4 is going to be about the speakers specifically. As Zeus mentioned, I watched the 4 days each of each convention at length. And I had speakers that I pointed out as, must watch, like if you're going to talk about this. Zeus watched them after the fact, and he watched quite a number of them, especially the ones that mattered most. So we're going to be talking on each of those speeches and give our takes on them. And then section 5 is going to be about diversity, because it seemed to be a big message that both parties are trying to come across as. So we're going to talk about the diversity pitch both parties are making, how effective those were, how genuine those were. And the last section is going to be about who the audience was for these conventions. Who were they trying to speak to? Who did they manage to speak to? And is anyone actually going to be swayed by these conventions? So that's what we have on the agenda. You ready to kick it off, Zeus?
Go.
All right. So, section 1. Party of ... In watching both conventions, what I took away from it, now actually, full disclosure, if you haven't already figured it out from our previous 2 episodes, Zeus and I both identify as Democrats, or at least not Republicans. Let me put it that way. Both of us are left, right? So obviously our opinions on matters might seem a little more leftist, and that's just a way of it, right? Like people form opinions based on their subjective views on things.
But on top of that, me and Zino are also realists.
Right.
Or at least attempt to be.
We try to be as much as possible, right?
So I can explain how, and we could both probably explain how these speeches help Trump or don't help Trump.
Exactly.
So, but like Zeno said, actually no, we're opposites. I'm progressive. He's more moderate. So we're a little bit opposite.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He's white. I'm off-white. So so anyway, so section 1, party of ... In watching the conventions, What I got from it was that the Democratic Party is trying to portray themselves as the party of unity. Um, Obviously, the reasoning behind that is because of what happened in 2016, where the convention itself was pretty contentious. It wasn't a contested convention, but people left the convention not very happy. People on the Bernie wing of the party and people in the moderate camp felt like things don't feel quite as kumbaya as they should.
Mhm.
And I think the Democratic Party tried to wrap their hands around it a lot this time around. And from giving Bernie the prime speaking spot on the first night, to reaching out to Elizabeth Warren, to giving AOC a 1 minute spot, which actually I can dive deeper on that later. But anyway, those were little nuggets here and there where it seemed like they were trying to portray themselves as a party of unity. Now, on the other end, there was the RNC that I don't know if they intended to do this, but I would say to the neutral and to anyone who isn't in the party, it seemed like their message was, we're the party of Trump.
Mhm.
Like Donald Trump featured in every single night of the convention, every single day of the convention. They completely did away with the process of actually having a what's it called when you have the thingy drawing a blank platform. Thank you. They did away with the process of having a platform and just said, look, we're going to do the roll call on Monday morning, not even as part of our primetime event. We're going to do a roll call on Monday morning. Trump's going to fly into Charlotte, give us a speech rambling about God knows what, and we're going to take it because we're the party of Trump. So that was the message I got off of them in the party of ... So Zeus.
So, like Zeno said, or we've said, I didn't watch the full convention because I'm not much of as much of a masochist as Zeno is. I just couldn't do it for either one. I honestly, even though I love politics, I get bored with almost any. I've never watched any of these conventions all the way through, right? But you can get the gist of it. Obviously, thank God there's YouTube. Thank God there, you can pull up stuff. So I was able, from the videos that I watched on the RNC side and on the DNC side, I could definitely agree with what you're saying, where the Democrats are trying to paint more of a unity party. I honestly got the sense of it was just basically saying another 4 years of this and the world we will probably not survive as a nation. That's kind of what I got from the DNC part. Also, it just seems like they were trying to pull in more Republican swing voters and saying, if you're tired of Donald Trump, vote for us. We'll get this done. I just felt like there was a little bit more catering towards the other side from the Democratic Party. So there was more catering towards the Republican side, more trying to bring them over than anything. But yeah, there was a vast difference in regards to who was speaking in the DNC, because you had everybody talk. You had AOC, you had Bernie Sanders. I didn't see if there was an Elizabeth Warren speech.
There was.
Okay. I didn't. For some reason that didn't show up when I pulled up YouTube. That didn't show up in the playlist of videos for some reason.
I believe it was on Wednesday night, the same night that Kamala Harris had her acceptance speech.
Okay. So that might have been why that was kind of overshadowed. And then, again, I saw pulled up different speeches from them. I saw the Obamas. I obviously saw Biden's acceptance speech, and then went to the Republican side, and then the Republican side, yeah, party of Trump, a little bit more. And somebody can correct me on this philosophy but it seemed Maoist, if I'm not mistaken. Is Maoist kind of a little bit
Mao Zedong?
Yeah, more cult of
the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah, more of cult of personality type of thing. Like we're here for Trump, not we're here for the country. And then it also, obviously there was a lot of nepotism involved. Even some of the speakers that I didn't think were Trump related, turns out that they're doing some of the Trump kids. So I was like, oh, okay. So there was a deep amount of nepotism involved in here, which kind of paints a little bit of They were trying to paint, and Zeno will speak on this obviously because we talked about that last night. Kind of a monarchy kind of thing where it was just like we're royalty, we're the
Right.
Trump royalty, and it just felt like that was it was. And also they wanted to paint a dystopian future in which I guess the Democrats were doing that too, where they were painting a dystopian future if you vote for Biden,
Mm-hmm.
despite the fact that a lot of the things that they were talking about are the present, which is under a Donald Trump presidency, which to me paints there was a lot of delusion
Mm-hmm.
involved on the Democratic side on the Republican side, where they want to pinpoint this is what's going to happen, and let me talk about these things that are happening now to pinpoint what's going to happen. Civil unrest.
Yeah.
You want to talk about civil unrest, but the civil unrest is happening while you're on the clock.
Yeah, a lot of the images that we're using to show what Biden's America will look like were images of Trump's America.
Exactly.
Like, if you're like Biden, you'll get more of what you're getting under me, basically. I do want to touch on the thing you said about nepotism. I think one thing that people have known about Trump for a long time, and to a lot of people, it's actually a positive. But I think we've seen for a while now that it can be a bit of a negative. Trump is about family. Anything he does, it's about installing Trump people into it. And there was such a weird juxtaposition going on, right? Because he had on the first night he had his namesake Donald Trump Jr. speak, and Donald Trump Jr.'s girlfriend. Then he had his daughter Tiffany speak. He had his son Eric Trump speak, and then he had Ivanka, of course, his favorite, speak. He had his daughter-in-law Lara Trump speak. But then, to touch on the family thing, right? All of those people were speaking against the backdrop of his niece, Mary Trump, releasing this really devastating tell-all about the Trump family. The backdrop of his sister, the judge, Mary Ellen Trump, Barry, I think is her last name.
Yeah.
Audio of conversations that his niece and his sister were having about Trump and why he's a bad president and being a narcissist and stuff. All of that came out. And also
didn't.
I was just gonna say all of that came out as a backdrop to. Yeah. No, hold on, real quick. I was just gonna say all of that came out.
Yeah, go ahead.
As a backdrop to his family coming out there and speaking about the greatness of Trump. And one more thing I want to add, usually when you have families speak at these conventions, it's supposed to be about humanizing the candidate, about, oh, my dad is such a caring dad, and did this and did that. I think Herschel Walker's speech did more to humanize Trump than any of his kids' speeches, because his kids' speeches are all about how great of a leader our dad is, as opposed to the little intro from Biden's kids in which it was like, our dad is, he made sure to come back on the Amtrak every day to take care of us and all that stuff. A humanizing speech, right? So, and one last thing, Zeus, sorry, I'm staying on this family track for a second. You had the granddaughter of what's the pastor's name? Billy Graham speak, and you had the niece of Mitt Romney speak. And I don't think either of those people would have been Trump supporters, right? Mitt Romney certainly isn't, and I don't think Billy Graham would like what has happened to the evangelical wing.
I believe his daughter said that Billy Graham would not vote.
His other granddaughter said
that he would have never voted for, and actually says that evangelicals going for Trump is actually spitting on the legacy or something along those lines.
Yes.
Of Graham. And then also I was going to point out that, now you could correct me if I'm wrong, if you know, but Melania Trump's best friend or ex-best friend has also released a tell-all. Now I
heard something about that. Yes.
Yeah, and because I read so I saw like a little bit of a where they were criticizing, or not criticizing, looking at the at the beginning. Remember at the beginning of the speech, right when Melania and Ivanka give each other, and it just seems like Melania is done. Even though I don't 100% know if that's really Melania kind of not able to hide her facial feature, or if that's just how she is because she just doesn't know what the fuck she's doing on that stage at the time.
Yeah, I don't. One, I don't know how to edit out the F words. You just dropped the but also I don't want to give too much focus to that, just because it did look like it was like, oh, Ivanka again, but you know.
Yeah, and we're not a gossip mag, so we're not gonna go into that.
Yeah,
I was just gonna point out that's in the video that they were discussing, that it was a lady who wrote like something about, and they were talking about the book that Melania Trump's best friend did, where she was talking about how
they have a contentious relationship.
Family, she did the her and Melania try to keep Ivanka out of the limelight, and they showed like a video where in the inauguration they made sure that Ivanka was all the way over here, so that way when they show photos of it, she's generally not in it. So it's just, even in the backdrop of family unity, there's still a possibility of family strife, and a family power struggle and all that good stuff. So it's just it's and like I said, that kind of feeds into this whole cult of personality that the Republican Party has gotten into. And then I kind of want to, something for a future discussion is, what will happen to the Republican Party if Donald Trump loses? Because it just seems like you said, they're the party of Trump. So what's going to happen when if your leader doesn't win?
Yeah, I think that should be for a future discussion.
Oh no, that'll definitely be in the future.
Because we could go in at length on that. Yeah. But okay, so party of ...